Remember when there was a time right after Disney got the rights to Daredevil, The Punisher, and all those Defenders from Netflix? We thought it was the end for those characters, essentially, right? You know, they were too dark, too gritty, too violent. We expected some kind of like reboot or some kind of like reimagination, because there's no way they're gonna let those characters cross over as is into the current MCU. How things have changed, huh?
To the point that we're getting a Spider-Man and Punisher crossover.
And to bridge that gap, now Marvel is releasing a special presentation. You know, if they've done it before with Werewolf by Night, Guardians of the Galaxy, this one is supposed to bridge the gap between Born Again leading into the new Spider-Man movie. Now, does it accomplish its job? Are we excited for it? We're gonna find that out right now, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into any of that, let me toss it over to my brother for the formalities.
Welcome to this installment of the After the Opening Credits podcast. I'm one half of your host, Hugo the Boss. Hugo got next, joined by my illustrious co-host.
It's your boy Ray Boogie Kahuna. Like we mentioned earlier, we are going to be breaking down the Marvel special, The Punisher, One Last Kill. But before we get into any of that, you know, we got a couple more formalities to get out the way.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, and TikTok.
Everybody enjoying the visual portion of this podcast. Like always, you can catch the main cast on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date.
And for all of our audio listeners, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio, you already know. Now, just to jump right into this short presentation, what are some of your general thoughts?
I really did enjoy watching this. You know, some people may say, was it necessary? I think to a degree, you can make the argument on both sides. If you are familiar with the Netflix version of John Barrethal's Punisher and you've seen everything leading up to this, I would say it's not a necessary watch. But if you're not completely familiar with this version of the Punisher, this presentation does a very good job in kind of encapsulating what his background is, what his motivations are, what this character is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the people who were in charge of this project knew exactly what they wanted to do and what they wanted to convey to the audience. They wanted to not only use this as almost like a summary piece of what John Barrethal's Punisher is, but they also kind of used it as a bridge piece between Netflix and Disney. They used this as just basically a summarization of the character to get you ready for his introduction onto the big screen alongside Spider-Man.
Exactly. And it's a tale of two stories, because even though it's, you know, it's short, it's got a 50-minute runtime, but I would say 45 minus the credits. The first half does a decent job in, you know, introducing you to the character briefly, you know, showing that he's struggling with PTSD, showing that he's struggling to find purpose. And eventually it gets to a climatic point where the story turns from soldier suffering from PTSD to all action, all out violence. And, you know, you can kind of get the Punisher that, you know, people have been craving.
Correct. And I think they called it Punisher One Last Kill just because I think they wanted to do two things. One, they wanted to give this presentation to the audience as a sample. And they're not saying it out loud, but I guess what the audience's appetite is for a Punisher series. And two, I believe that this presentation was released to give a possible nice final send-off to the John Barrethel Netflix Punisher before converting him to a PG-13 format alongside Spider-Man.
Yeah, before watching this, when I seen the title One Last Kill, I was like, okay, they're gonna PG-fy Punisher, which, you know, I wasn't really looking forward to. And I was like, okay, they're gonna, you know, wrap up the gore, wrap up the violence, and, you know, prep him for the big screen. Thankfully, I was wrong, because it doubles down on the violence. It doubles down on the nastiness, the gore, the darkness, the grittiness. It stays true and faithful to the character, which, you know, I'm glad about.
Agreed. And I think it's just really nice to see Marvel and Disney try to take risk with certain products and try to do things a little differently.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, I guess when it comes to, you know, characters and everybody involved in this short presentation, there really isn't that many. It's primarily John Bernthal on screen as the Punisher. I love him personally as an actor. I think he's excellent. This is a role that he's been, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, he's been playing for about a decade now. You know, this is his character, to the point where he was involved in the writing for this. I think that was a pretty good judgment call because, nobody knows this character more than the guy who's been playing this character. And I think he knocks it out the park.
100%. A lot of this presentation is carried by his acting ability. And you really get to see his acting chops in full display because a lot of it is him dealing with his PTSD, which means a lot of his inner demons, a lot of his inner doubts, a lot of his inner thoughts.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not saying Bertha is a perfect actor. I like him personally. But, you're going to get some of the good and you're going to get some of the bad. And some of the bad with Jon Bernthal is that he likes to, get a little animalistic when it comes to some of the sound effects he makes, and
the grunting.
He really gets into the character and, kind of puts a twist on the Punisher where he almost, is barbaric in a way, but it's like, it's visceral.
It's very difficult to associate the Punisher with anybody else but Jon Bernthal. And I love Thomas Jane. I love Thomas Jane's depiction of him, but this is Jon Bernthal's character.
And outside of the Punisher, the only other character outside of Frank Castle to talk about of note is Ma Nucci. And, without jumping into too many spoilers, she doesn't have that much time on screen. The time that she does have on screen, it's impactful. I think she knocks it out the park. I think the actress is Judith Light. She was able to provide essentially the plot because up to this point, there was no plot.
Correct. And with that said, my brother, what are some of your final thoughts on this vignette to the Punisher, and how would you grade it?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I loved it. Now, was it necessary? If you're not familiar with the character, I would say it is. If you are familiar with the character, it's just a bonus, but it's still well worth the time to watch because, you're going to get Jon Bernthal. You are getting the Punisher in all of his glory. The only missteps in this presentation were, there's one spot where, the CGI kind of, takes you out a bit.
Ugh.
And not a personal gripe that I had, but a gripe that I did see online was audio. The dialogue in particular wasn't coming across as cleanly as, it should. My brother and I are in the minority. We do like to watch things in subtitles. Feel free to shame us in the comment section. I get it, subtitles do have a stigma behind them, but hey, outside of that, it was short, but I think it did its job. Now, as for how I would rate this, 4 out of 5 Punisher skulls.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. This is one of the few projects that they have released recently that knows exactly what it wants to do. They know exactly what they want the audience to understand. I would give this short vignette to the Punisher 4 Punisher skulls for the uninitiated, 5 Punisher skulls for the initiated.
And that does it for our breakdown and review of the Punisher. One last kill. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys liked it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please drop them in the comment section. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But, you're going to hear myself repeat that one more time after I throw my brother over for the final wrap up.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, and TikTok.
Everybody enjoying the visual portion of this podcast. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date. You can catch the main cast on YouTube like always.
And for all of our audio listeners, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio, you already know. We hope you guys enjoyed this short podcast for the shorter presentation of the Punisher. Please keep the comments spoiler free if possible. Catch us next time for our next installment. We don't know what we'll be covering, but it's something I'm sure that you guys will find as enjoyable as we do. Love you guys. Holla at you guys. Peace. One. We out.